Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to another edition here of the Patriots Touchback Podcast. We are in episode 18 of season 2. And again, it's another glorifying mess of a result, losing 15-10 to the Miami Dolphins in pretty disgusting fashion. But before we get cracking on with this, make sure you smash the like button, you hit the subscribe button, tell all your friends, follow us on all our social media platforms, and follow our podcast on the Sports Social Network and Spotify as well. I got Kieran, I got Joe, and I got JD with me tonight. There has been a bit of breaking news, which we will get to later on in the show. But for now, let's get all the lads in and let's have their say. Gentlemen, good evening. How are we doing? How was your weekend, excluding the game?
Much better now, having seen the news within the last half an hour. Let's just say that.
Yes.
As you said, we'll come to it later, but we have hope at last.
I had a very tiring 14-hour drive back from the Highlands of Scotland on Sunday to Southampton, which was made even worse by watching the absolute dire that was served up at 6 p.m.
Yeah, it wasn't the best of performances, was we? I don't know. We're trying to be very, very hyperbolical here about this, but it ended 15-10 to the Miami Dolphins in what can only be described as probably one of the worst performances I've seen. It's not what I've seen in my lifetime, because I got to saw 10-7, and that was a bad one. This was bad in many multiple ways. The first thing I want to get touched on, first of all, how badly undisciplined that we were in that game. 12 penalties for about 105 yards.
Just so unpatriot-like. We just don't do that.
I think there were another 2, weren't there? There was 12 accepted, but I think there were 14 in total. There were 2 they declined. So it's even worse than it looks when you see it at the stat sheet.
I think we almost had as many penalty yards as we passed for. Sorry, Jody, you go.
No, I was just going to say, it's not even the holding penalties and stuff like that, which I can get because we've got obviously a struggling offensive line. It's the things like 12 men in the huddle, the dumb stuff like that, which adds, that it was on a punt as well. Like, how do you not know who your punt unit is? Things like that. That's basic stuff that we're making mistakes on. That, and that Hunter Henry false start on the third.
Oh man, that was so frustrating.
Like, a captain making a play like that, he's just. That's the kind of stuff that concerns me at the minute, more so than the offensive line or the stuff. It's just self-inflicted wounds. Because we came out of week 1 with so much confidence because we played a near-perfect game in that regard. We didn't kill ourselves. We didn't give away penalties. And then in subsequent games, you've seen that just get worse and worse and worse. And that's really frustrating.
It was just not good. It was not a good performance on the penalty side of things. 2 penalties as well on Keon White. 2 stupid penalties, shall we say. Roughing the passer penalty, and I believe it was
a horse collar.
The horse collar tackle, unnecessary roughness. Yeah, that was not good. And that kind of moved the chains with Miami a bit. That's how they scored their points. But even so, during that game, the Dolphins were simply begging us to take the game. They missed a field goal. They screwed up a field goal with their holder. They literally gave us every opportunity to actually win this game. And in the final play, we had the opportunity, and we will get into that decision in a minute. And I've seen a lot of people completely lose their head over it. They don't know what the ruddy hell a catch is or what the hell means 2 feet and bounds means nowadays. It will get broken down later on. But just overall, the game, it was just horrible. It was just, once again, an anemic offense. What have I said? What did they say at the start of the season? I just want to see a pulse on this offense. We
It
still
was very much.
the pulse
It
we
was very
saw
much.
was the pulse we saw was based. The pulse we saw was back in the game against Seattle. The only game we've seen is against Seattle.
Yeah. Again, for me, it was very much a case of the Patriots lost the game as opposed to the Dolphins winning it. Like, yeah,
I don't think either team would win that game.
I don't think neither team deserved to win the game. It was probably the worst game of football I have seen in a very, very long time, and that's going back to last year watching the Patriots.
I think it set the game of football back. That game.
It was horrendous. It was very hard to watch.
It sent us back to the days where men and the New York Jets didn't fucking exist. It went back to that level of.
Just every possible conceivable mistake and error you could make on a football field was made during the course of that game. Do you want to just snap the ball on a field goal? Nah, just knuckleball it straight into the ground. Like, miss a 33-yard chip shot? Nah, yeah, go for it. Why not? Like, it just everything
50-yarder
was just every dumb mistake you could make.
Go from 4th and 1, but use a conventional running play. Yeah, well done. That's a smart move. Just so many miscues. But here's what I want to say to you, DJ. The final play of the game, or rather, it was literally the final drive after the touchdown got ruled out, and that Jacoby Brissett, he has a clean pocket. He gets the ball out. He throws to Hunter Henry in the middle with 12 seconds left. You watch that play a bit further on. Jalen Polk is on the edge of the end zone. Beg your pardon. So even at best, if he doesn't quite get it, he's at the 1 yard line. You might be able to snap the ball in time because it's in the middle of the field, and all the officials got to do is just reset the ball.
I think, to be honest with you, as a veteran QB, he's got to be smarter and know that if you're throwing a pass in that situation, either if there's nothing on, throw that away, or put it into the end zone or on the sideline. Because if that ball is completed in bounds, I mean, you look at that ball with, is it 3 or 4 seconds to go? With the best will in the world, the lightning speed, you are not getting to the line of scrimmage, getting set and snapping the ball and spiking it in that time. It had to go to the end zone. And I think that's probably something we're going to allude to a bit later on, and maybe why the change has been made at quarterback that we've kind of alluded to already, that Jacoby Brissett is supposed to be a veteran who's a steadying presence, who's going to make smart decisions, and he's not physically gifted, we know that, but can lead the offense. But he just started, especially the last 2 weeks, to make too many rookie-like mistakes, like that mental mistakes, that if somebody's going to be out there making a mental mistake like that, I'd rather it be Drake Maye, because the chance of the ceiling there is much higher than with Jacoby Brissett. So, that was just, I found that really, really frustrating last play, because he knows better than that. He knows better than to do that. And
it is frustrating, but there's also more to it in the sense that we averaged a franchise high 7.9 yards per carry in this game, and we finished the game with 4 consecutive passes when we were averaging 3.7 yards per attempt passing the ball, and we know our passing game is inept. So yes, that decision to throw to Hunter Henry up the middle, where you're never going to get that and clock it in time to have a shot at the end zone closer, is a poor one. But the play calling there was abysmal. And we also, everyone will go back to, we were a Jalen Polk toe away from winning the game. We had multiple chances to win this game. The Dolphins didn't want it. This Dolphins team was so bad, you could even call them the Miami Tins of Tuna. They were that bad. They were there for the taking. They had no pass rush in the game whatsoever. Both their star pass rushers were out injured. Jacoby Brissett had more clean pockets than he's probably had all season, and he just simply could not get the job done. And as we said in the green room beforehand, a functional quarterback would have won that game 99 times out of 100. I'll
go as far as saying any of the other 31 starting quarterbacks on Sunday would have won that game.
Well, but bar Deshaun Watson. Yeah. Anyway.
Well,
do you know that Deshaun Watson's got a worse QBR than Jacoby Brissett? Just saying.
My fun fact I learned this week that Jacoby, if you look at EPA per play, and you get the worst Browns QBs from seasons from 2000 onwards, Jacoby Brissett 2024 is the worst ever of the Browns QBs since 2000, and Jacoby Brissett 2023 is second bottom. That's how bad teams are.
Yeah.
Which is horrific.
So it is a combination between inept quarterback play, and thankfully, we're in a situation now where we don't have to, hopefully not to sit through that anymore, paired with AVP's got to take the accountability for that, because why would you deviate away from something that was working? If we could run the ball, we might have scored a touchdown anyway and won the game.
So yeah,
we were averaging 7 yards carry. We were averaging 7 yards carry.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here as well. As an offensive coordinator, I don't care if we're 3, 4, 5 games into 10 games into the season. AVP's ass is on the line because his play calling so far this season has been fucking horrendous. Horrendous. He hasn't played like Sunday was a prime example on that final drive. Play to your strengths. Ram the ball down their throat. We've done it all game. We're getting, like you say, nearly 8 yards a carry.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. With someone like Josh McDaniels sat out there on the side, like doing nothing as an offensive coordinator.
I think the thing for me is, and there's already talk about Ben McAdoo being in the building and whether there's going to be a transition to him play calling. I think the thing that's frustrating me is, I know we probably brought up the penultimate drive where we had the ball on the 13-yard line with 3 timeouts and an opportunity to run the ball there. We should have taken that. I think there was a minute 13 on the clock, so there's still plenty of time for us to run the ball, and that was an option we chose not to, which is an odd choice. And I know we're one slightly too high throw from Brissett away from winning that game, but that still doesn't excuse that it wasn't. The other 3 passing plays were awful. I think for me, the frustration with Van Pelt's system is it just doesn't make sense to the team we've got right now. We're just running spread concepts with, I think we're something like 27th in the league in motion. We're 31st in play action. How are we 31st in play action? I mean, we run like play action on like 1% of our plays. That's insane. Our whole offense is built on running the ball. Play action should be our bread and butter. We should thrive on play action, and we're just not running it. We're not running any motion. We're not running bunch formations at all. I think we're like 27th, 28th in the league in bunch formations. We're just running a stagnant offense where we're saying, right, and that works if you've got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Yoshivash out at wide receiver. If you've got guys that can go and win one-on-one matchups, you can do that. We don't have that, but I just don't feel like AVP is doing anything to kind of go, okay, let's try and give our guys an advantage. Let's put Pop in motion to get him moving at line of scrimmage so he doesn't get pressed. Let's run bunch formations so we can hide Hunter Henry and we can hide Pop behind the bigger guys. We're just not doing that, and that perplexes me. And also, where's the trickery? One thing Josh McDaniels, for all his faults, was good at is when the offense was spluttering, he would pull out a trick play from somewhere. An Edelman double pass, something like that. There's no trickery. Like, we have an offense with very little talent on, with a struggling offensive line, with a vanilla quarterback, and we're not doing anything to help them. We're just going, go win. And we're not. And then we're thinking, how are we not winning? But we all know that's going to happen. So I completely agree, Joe. I think a lot of responsibility has got to be taken by Alex Van Pelt, that he needs to put his guys in a better position to win, because right now we're not doing that. My hope is perhaps Jacoby was just kind of the steward of the offense that was designed for Drake Maye, and that he's just placeholding, and that once we get Drake in, we're going to run an offense that's more suited to Drake Maye's skills. And maybe that's when we give him his kind of best shot. But I just don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in him right now.
I don't think anyone does.
No, I don't think a lot of people does, to be honest. But I just wonder if he's saving all that play action for when Drake comes in. It just feels weird, because he was the OC or QB coach when he was at Cleveland, where Jacoby Brissett originally was. So I just find it strange how they're not.
He didn't call plays. That was one of the differences that we were with
Stefanski's always called plays.
Yeah, Stefanski called the play, so he was involved in the offense, but he wasn't the play caller. And I just wonder if that perhaps
he wasn't on the sideline. He wasn't on the sideline. Yeah, AVP sat up in the booth. From what I can remember at Cleveland, he's never on the sideline.
Yeah, and maybe that's something we need from him if that's where his skill set's laid, to get him up in the booth and calling plays from there, or being more of an overseer and coordinating the offense, and then allowing McAdoo or somebody to call plays. Because what he's doing right now, he just doesn't seem to me to be putting anybody in a position to succeed. Like Joe mentioned earlier, we're not playing to our strengths right now, which doesn't seem like a recipe for success, and obviously hasn't been.
It's not, but one good thing to come out of the running game was, of course, with Ramondre Stevenson. He didn't fumble the ball. Hey, so there is success. There was a little bit of
Always
success,
a bonus.
But he was a wrecking ball running the ball for us. He was our best player on offense, and I know it's slim pickings when it comes to this offense. But the other player I'm going to give a big shout out to, Kayshon Boutte. Welcome to New England, mate. That was a very good performance that he put in there. And it's not so much as he only had a couple of receptions, but his blocking for the running game, wow. I didn't expect that out of Boutte at all. And he made some holes for Ramondre to get some big gains on. We did say that, and Tyquan Thornton barely didn't get any snaps at all. So I think that just gives you the indication there that I think even Drake Maye has seen enough, or rather seen not enough from Tyquan Thornton. It's like, right, let's give Kayshon Boutte a chance. He can't be any worse. And, he's done more in one game than what Thornton has done in a few seasons for us.
I'd be very
career
surprised.
high snaps, isn't it?
Career high snaps,
I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised to see Thornton back on the team this year if he's not a healthy scratch. I think, again, if you're going to give players a chance, I think Javon Baker's still to come back in again. Was a healthy scratch this weekend, wasn't he? So I think I'd much rather have someone like Baker in there who's at least, can produce the wow factor, as opposed to Tyquan Thornton, who is just a wet flannel. He's done.
My thing with Javon Baker, they said that he's struggling to know where to line up and he's struggling to refine certain routes, but just send him on goes and posts then. If he's struggling to run more refined routes, then just send him deep and let him catch a jump ball, because we know he can do that. I was happy with Kayshon Boutte. I mean, Thornton's gone. Osborne was inactive with an injury, and yes, Kayshon only had 2 catches, but a good run blocker. We know that the talent's there. We're all fans of him on this podcast, and maybe now's the time for him to get some more playing time at last. I've got a hypothetical trade to throw out there as well. Actually, it's not a very high profile one, but I think I'd rather have the player coming our way than the one going out. I would go to Green Bay and say, we'll give you Tyquan Thornton for Romeo Dubs.
And Green Bay will laugh at us.
You was about to steal my thunder there, because I kind of had that same sort of thing. But Romeo Dubs
wants out.
Yeah, but he's also got a bit of an arrogance problem, and don't think this new regime will probably deal well with arrogant players.
I think the whole thing with him has just come because he's not playing. The last couple of seasons, he's been like a starter for them, and then he's kind of found himself down the pecking order a bit, and he's not happy about his lack of snaps. So that seems to be why he's in trouble. But yeah, I get the character issues, but I think he'd be better than Thornton.
Yeah, but he's not the same sort of profile receiver though as Tyquan Thornton though. Whereas Thornton's more of a speedster to take the top off the defense like he ever does. Dubs is more of a sort of Devontae Parker style of receiver, quite tall, ex-receiver, can actually climb up and get one-on-one catches. He's that sort of receiver. Because the problem is in Green Bay, they're throwing a lot of short-range passes, but it's the yak that's getting and they're making them move the chain with the likes of Jaden Reed, with the likes of Devontae Wicks and Christian Watson. Not to mention their new tight end Tucker Kraft as well. So
I'm sorry, Carl. I just had to take a moment there when you said about ex-receiver and Devontae Parker climbing and going for go balls, because I don't think I've seen that in 3 years.
When he was good. When he was good. Not for us, but when he was good. You know what I mean? I kind of, that was the only comparison I can make really. Anyway. Yeah. So Gonzo again had another pretty. Gonzo had a pretty decent game again. His main job was to shut down Tyreek Hill. I think he limited him to like one reception, I believe, or two receptions. I can't. Let me just scroll back.
I think he had about 46 yards in total, only. I don't know if they were all whilst.
Just
I remember he gave up 55 yards to Hill,
which is actually okay, to be honest with you.
Well, it's pretty good when you think about. So he was targeted 11 times for 5 catches for 74 yards. But I think it was more against Hill. It was against Tyreek Hill. He was targeted 6 times, 3 catches, 55 yards,
and a pass breakup, and nearly and with nearly a second interception as well. Because his first interception, he picked it off Odell Beckham Jr., which is always quite nice to which is it?
It was a beautiful read. I mean, Odell looked really, really slow.
Yeah. Let's be honest. How happy are we now that we didn't get OBJ? Like, thank the Lord for that, because that man.
I think we should have got him around about 5-6 years ago when he was still in his pomp, when he was still actually decent. Now I think he's not the same anymore.
Many injuries. It's such a shame to see, because he was like one of the best receivers like in the league, but he looks like an old broken down car that's just about past its MOT. Waiting for something to fall off. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good.
But I think that was probably Gonzo's best game for me so far this year. I thought his coverage was really good, and I think the fascinating thing for me with the 55 yards he gave up to Hill, but only 3 of those yards came after the catch. And I think you could clearly see the game plan they had with Gonzo on Hill, where it was sit over the top of him, let him eat underneath if he wants to, but do not give a big play. And I think he played it perfectly. I don't think the one great on that second nearly interception. Yeah. I think a competent NFL QB probably throws a touchdown to Hill on that second attempted pick, because he just feathered it and gave Gonzo a chance to catch that, which to be fair, he should have caught. But maybe that's why he's a corner, not a receiver.
Exactly that.
But that first pick was beautiful. Really, really nice.
He's got to be in consideration for, the Pro Bowl or potentially even All Pro this year. If you look at the stats, he's just been an absolute joke.
I mean, I put it in a group chat on Sunday, and I'll stand by it now, that on this pod tonight, the 3 of us, the other 2 guys, if Gonzo is not first team All Pro by the end of the season, then we'll have a night out on me, because I'll be very, very shocked if there's a better cornerback or 2 better cornerbacks than him in the league.
I've said on another podcast on the Inflicted network that my bold prediction was Gonzo to get comeback player of the year due to his injury, or defensive player of the year, because the way he's been going at it right now, he's been good. He's got some competition with Patrick Surtain II, who's performing very well. So he has competition there. But Gonzo, if he continues this rate, I mean, his next job now is to shut down Stephon Diggs. That's his next job.
Well, looks like we're getting pretty lucky with Nico Collins been out.
That's a big... Yeah, we'll get into the preview of that in a bit, okay?
Yeah. But I think probably Patrick Surtain and maybe Jalen Johnson are probably his biggest. Derek Stingley's having a good year, but I think beyond that, he seems to me to be, I don't think there's many corners better than him beyond those guys.
I think the only other one who will be in consideration for comeback player of the year will be someone like Kirk Cousins.
JD, we still seem to be having some issues with regarding of outside zone action when it comes to us defending the run. What can you tell us more about that? Because I did going through that. It was a lot. I do see a lot of Devon Achane before he went down with his injury. They were playing a lot of outside zone, and we weren't setting the edge well, was we?
No, I thought we set the edge a bit better this week. I thought against the Jets it was horrific, and then against the Niners it wasn't great. They exploited it quite a bit. I think one of the things that you've seen a transition a little bit. I think getting Anthony Jennings back was a big deal. But I think as well, we had Tavai play a lot more on the line than he had, which is where he's far more comfortable. Marty Mapu, I thought, was a mixed bag in the run game and looked pretty good in the pass game. But man, that guy plays with his hair on fire, and he was everywhere. Even if he wasn't right, especially because they gave him the green dot, which I thought was a strange choice, which I wonder was more about taking it away from Tavai and allowing him to just go out there and play, because he seemed to struggle last week with navigating the green dot and playing. But yeah, you certainly saw, I think, the outside zone is a little bit unusual and really hard to defend, because essentially you set up 3 possible lanes. So you can essentially, you're running to the outside. You can either bounce it to the outside, burst through the guard, the guard and tackle gap they're leaving, or cut it back inside. And I thought you saw us in previous weeks not set that edge well at all, and we were consistently getting beat on the bounce option. Whereas you saw more often this time, we were okay, I think, until Miami brought in a fullback consistently on that final drive. And I think it was to do with trying to combat Hill and Waddle and their speed. We sat in cover 2 shells a lot, especially in zone coverage. We have really struggled. And I think it's because our lack of a pass rush and our D-line struggling as much as it has done. I think our back end has played quite well, but I think we've struggled on the defensive line. And the numbers, when you look at man coverage compared to zone coverage, is night and day. We are an infinitely better team in man coverage than we are in zone. Typically, I think because it allows us to play with 5 rushers minimum in man coverage, which allows us to get pressure. If we're sitting in zone and dropping 7, we just can't get pressure with 4. We're not good enough. And Keon White, I think, is really interesting because he is our most talented pass rusher, but he is incredibly undisciplined. And you see him quite a lot. A lot of the setting the edge issues have been him. And I thought they did a better job this week of trying to scheme and manufacture ways to get him inside where he didn't have as much kind of responsibility. And they used him a lot as a spy this week, which I thought was interesting, because I thought that stopped him getting lost on his rush, because quite often he's just trying to win with his best rush and not thinking about the integrity of the defensive line and what gap he's got and things like that. So I thought that was an interesting way to try and keep him a bit more disciplined. But I thought, again, you saw us kind of force the cutback and force the burst option on the wide zone rather than the bounce, which is where we've typically been beaten. But I think we've got to get our cover 2 shells. I thought it was really brave to line up in cover 2, considering we're missing our 2 starting safeties as well. I think it was the fear of their speed. It was the fear of their speed over the top.
You just wanted that protection over the top.
I think it's quite brave to probably sit in cover 1 or a single high against these guys, because they are lightning fast, and you don't want to play cover 0 against.
No, you can't. You can't play cover 0. No, you can't.
And even cover 1 is risky, but that means obviously that if we have 2 high, we've got 1 less man in the box, and then if they bring in a fullback like they did, that's another man advantage they've got, which is why I think on that last drive you started to see them just, and again, also there was a 10-minute difference in time of possession, which is huge, because we just kept going 3 and out. So our offense wasn't on the field a lot, our defense on the field a lot, and they were tired. And Miami that was a fantastic coaching decision from Mike McDaniel, and I think that helped kind of seal that last drive. But I would have liked to see us adjust a little bit quicker and move to kind of a single high at that point.
One of the safeties that did return for us, and he has been on injured reserve since the start of the season, Marty Mapu returned. Did you think that he was calling plays on the defensive side of the ball?
He had the green dot.
With the green dot. Yeah. It just felt like we was a lot more contained and a lot more better, especially on stopping the run, especially through the middle of the field. We contained Huntley very well. I don't think we let him scramble. And I think he is good with his legs, but with his throwing is still little to be desired. So it was good work from him. The special teams as well. There were some ups and there were some downs. I said last week I thought we had a very reliable kicker in Jerry Sly, and I am now gonna have to eat a bag of shit for that, because he ended up missing, what was it? 30-yarder field goal, which is pretty much a chip shot. dude, seriously, what the hell? So yeah,
it's an extra point, isn't it? It's
and he missed a PAT. How can you miss a PAT? God only knows.
I think to be fair, that was the criticism of Joey Sly in camp. That I mean, Chad Ryland was not great generally, but Joey Sly has a huge leg, but he's not been as reliable in the short range like Nick Folk was. Nick Folk was the anti-Joey Sly. Anything under 50, he was pretty much guaranteed to hit, but get him over 50, and he just hasn't got the driver in his bag to hit that.
Well, that's rubbish.
Joey Sly has.
That's rubbish. That's rubbish because Nick Folk's been hitting a few 50-yarders this season for Tennessee, so that's rubbish.
He's not consistent, is what I mean. Like his numbers when he was with the Patriots over 50 yards were pretty poor. But with Joey Sly, he's the opposite. He's not as consistent from short yardage, but in long yardage, he's got an absolute boomer of a leg and can hit a 63-yard, whatever it was last week. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that was the difference in the game, to be honest. It was disappointing, obviously, but yeah.
We know he's streaky. We said that when he signed. We know he's streaky. Just a couple of more points. I think there are a couple more positives from this game. First of all, we are currently the number 1 ranked special teams unit in the NFL. So credit to Jeremy Springer because he's doing a fantastic job, and we actually have a functional special team.
Not that Jerry. Come on.
I said Jeremy.
He seems like, with all the kind of talking points around the coaching staff, he seems to be a genuinely good hire so far. So so fair play to him. We seem to be doing well on that. And also, I feel like this podcast may owe the Colander a little bit of an apology because he was actually our best offensive lineman this week and didn't allow any pressures. So I know that their pass rush without Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips is nowhere near the level, but still, considering what we've been subject to watching from him in previous games, to allow no pressures, Badarian Lowe, well done. You had a good game.
I mean, if DJ has his media passes for next Sunday, I need to be very, very careful what I say because I have said some rather not nasty things. They have been they've been jokingly. I'm a jokey person. But
to be fair, Badarian Lowe, he was going up against Chop Robinson, who's a first rounder, and Tyus Bowser, who's no slouch. So he was they're not a great defensive line, but he had him put up a Golston on him. He didn't. I thought him and Michael Jordan were really strong on the
I thought they did. And also Michael Onwenu kicking back into right guard. I think it was needed. Right tackle just wasn't working. Yeah,
I think he's going to it might take a game or two for him to get back into the swing of it because he did struggle at times. He gave up the pressure on the Jalen Polk no touchdown right up into Jacoby's face, which I think is what caused him to sail it. So it was a bit disappointing that he wasn't his usual self, but hopefully he kind of settles back into playing guard.
Yeah, absolutely. One last thing, and we now need to address this. Okay, I have seen a lot of people go off on X about it, whether this was a touchdown, whether it wasn't a touchdown, and it is of course the Jalen Polk one that was originally a touchdown, and then it was reviewed in the booth because it was in the 2-minute warning, and it got overturned because his second foot was down but out of the end zone. It's a shit rule. It's a bullshit rule, but the letter of the law is correct. That is my preference, and that is also what Nick said to me on an audio call as well. It's basically the rule is if you're facing, I'll give you a prime example. The reason being why, if you're facing the crowd in the end zone, then all you need is 2 toes is literally toe tap, 10 toes down. That's basically all it needs. When you're doing it, if you're back to goal, you have to have. If you can still do it, but if your first foot comes down, then your second foot has to come down as well to complete the process. It is a complicated and a rather obnoxious rule, but that's basically what the letter of the law states. And I know
as someone who's played football, as a wide receiver, tight end, that is the biggest bullshit rule the NFL have, and it has to fucking change because it makes. So excuse my language. This is a family-friendly podcast, so just mute your ears for a minute. It is absolute. I'm going to go on a rant. So sorry, it's absolute bollocks that anywhere else on the field you can do. They call about your toe drag swag. Yeah, you are literally. You have your back to the. Oh man, don't. I could go off for hours. It's a bullshit rule. Goodell, fucking change it because you know it's bullshit.
I think anything that simplifies what is and what isn't a catch is a good thing. And I think the issue with this was when I was watching the game and trying to explain to my wife why that wasn't a catch. And she was like, well, he got 2 feet down. And I'm like, yeah, I know. He got 2 feet down, but then his heel was out of bounds. And she was like, but I thought 2 feet was a catch. And I was like, well, it is. But if he was faced the other way, then just 2 toes, just his 2 feet is fine. But then it's like, but then his knee would land. Yeah, I know, but that wouldn't matter. That doesn't make a difference if his heel touch. And you're like, this is just so. Her whole thing was just like, well, why is it so complicated? And I was like, I don't have a good answer for that. It just is, and it's just
no one has a good answer for that.
It's an obnoxious rule. It really is. Kieran, what's your take on it? It does state it's in the letter of the law, but it really does need sort of like, simplifying a little bit, because in the NCAA in college you only need to get 1 feet in bounds.
Yeah,
I think that's crap. If I'm honest with you, I think if you're going to be progressing into the NFL, you need to learn to have 2 feet in, because otherwise,
I agree.
Because
we've seen that preseason, didn't we? We've seen that preseason. Was Javon Baker had a couple of catches like preseason where he's got 1 foot in and hasn't got the other. So I completely agree. That needs to be changed across the board. It should be 2 feet in.
Completely agree. There's lots of things in college that you can change. I don't understand why college teams run collegiate offenses and they're not preparing players to play at the next level. Like every team should run a pro style offense. It's awful, but going back to that, like it's frustrating. The rule is very hazy, and like you said, if he's faced the other way, it's different. If it's anywhere on the field, it's different. And yes, it probably needs to be looked at. But as much as I was disappointed that we didn't win the game, and I had to retract my fist pump when he did catch it, I once again go back to the fact we had multiple chances to win that game and we still couldn't do it. So in the grand scheme of things, yes, that probably would have won us the game, but we had multiple opportunities to put that game to bed and we didn't do it. So that's the bigger issue for me.
In all fairness, losing that game, as it currently stands, we have the number 1 pick in the draft.
We do.
Yeah. Trade down.
We do. But we only need a tackle.
Trade it.
Don't trade down too far.
Can Travis Hunter play tackle as well as cornerback and wide receiver?
And Nick said this to me on an audio call as well. He said we will get a top 3 pick, but he is scared that Elliot Wolf is going to screw it up. And when I say screw it up, he probably means we take Travis Hunter. Listen, Travis Hunter, I think, is amazing talent. Great. He's a fantastic receiver, great corner. I'd probably say he's a better corner than what he is a receiver, if I'm going to be very honest with you.
Travis Hunter is a generational player that you do not turn down if you have the pick.
But
can you imagine Gonzo on one side, Travis Hunter on the other?
I can picture it, and it'll be amazing.
And then pick up in free agency.
Unfortunately, when our glaring need is on the offensive line, you have to. It's all right going for the smart and the sexy pick, but sometimes you need to start building the trenches, and our trenches are destroyed. We need to rebuild trenches. Go take Will Campbell. Go take Kelvin Banks Jr. And then in the second round, go and get a center because probably David Andrews is going to retire.
I think if we get if Banks and Campbell are gone, draft the best receiver on the board. I think a number 1 receiver, if we have someone like Hunter or McMillan or someone like that, I would happily take them. An offensive line needs to be average. They do not need to be any more than that to be a successful team.
Well, we're not even average, so it's...
That's what I mean. But you can find average tackles. You can find average linemen in places that's easier to find. A truly generational number 1 receiver is so hard to get, and you'll only get them at the top of the draft. So I have no problem. And we need weapons. We need offensive linemen. Take either. I don't mind.
Tackles don't grow on trees. However,
well, JD, you're an LSU fan. Is Will Campbell a generational 10, 15-year starter at left tackle? That's the argument.
I think he's very good. I think to be honest with you, the success of the team pins on whether Drake Maye is good or not. Look at Joe Thomas going to the Browns. Joe Thomas is one of the greatest tackles I've ever watched. He spent his entire career on a shit team because they didn't have very good receivers and they had no quarterback. We can have a phenomenal tackle. The problem with an offensive line, this is my theory, right? With an offensive line, An offensive line is a collection of players. It's only as good as the weakest player on the offensive line. So you can have Joe Thomas at left tackle, but if you have Trey Jacobs at right tackle, Joe Thomas is not particularly useful because he can only block one player. If you have Aiden Hutchinson, well, you just slide him over to the side of the line and now he's facing Trey Jacobs. If I have a generational receiver, my receiving core is as good as the best guy. My number one receiver makes everybody on my receiving core better. My best offensive lineman doesn't necessarily do that. So that's why I think I would rather have an average offensive line than a generational tackle. If you can get me a generational receiver, that's not to say any of these players are generational because that term gets thrown around far too much. But if you can get me a number one receiver, I'll have that all day over a top shelf tackle. Just go and get me average tackles. That's all I need.
I think you've also got to weigh it up against the free agency class next year and like who's going to be available. So I'm just looking now. In terms of left tackles available next year, Cam Robinson from the Jags, Garrett Bowles from the Broncos, Ronnie Stanley from the Ravens, Tyron Smith, Jedrick Wills. There's a few options there.
I'll take Stanley or Jedrick Wills out of that.
I'd take Jedrick Wills and play him at right tackle like he played at Alabama because I think he might be better on the right side.
Exactly what I was about to say. Alabama, he was an animal.
And then you use Cade Wallace as a swing tackle then, won't you?
I mean, the right tackle free agency class next year doesn't look overly great unless you want to play Wills at right tackle. I'm just trying to look at the receivers now. I mean, like the free agent class next year for receivers isn't fantastic. T. Higgins is the highlight. Like you can go and get someone like Chris Godwin or Amari Cooper, but you've got to weigh that up when it gets to the off season and when the draft order is set. What's more important, getting a game changing receiver, or can we do that? Can we get T. Higgins and draft Will Campbell, or do we go the other way around and draft and sign Jedrick Wills and then get Travis Hunter? Like which way do we do it?
Listen, the Bengals are either going to sign T. Higgins or going to sign Jamar Chase. They're going to let one of them go or trade one of them.
T. Higgins is hitting the market 100%.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase is season, man. You've got to sign Chase. That guy is unbelievable.
That's a man. That is a man playing as if to show he's the best receiver in the NFL.
Oh, he's quality.
I'm biased. I'm an LSU fan, but he's my favorite non-Patriot. I could watch that guy.
Unbelievable.
He's
such a great footballer.
Anyway. All of that is all well and dandy. We're talking about free agency and that, but we're talking about the current present. But now we can start thinking officially on the future because literally 15 minutes before we went live, there was a report that came out from me and Rappaport, and it is true. The future is now in New England. Sources say the Patriots are planning to start Drake Maye against the #Texans for the first start for the number 3 overall pick. Jacoby Brissett, who started the first 5 games, heads to the bench. I had to.
It is here, boys. Mayday has arrived. Mayday has arrived.
It was desperately needed, and I think after the last 5 games we've watched, where the offense just has been spluttering, it hasn't really gone anywhere. I think it is time. I'd love to hear what Boston Sports Media is saying right now, whether they're having an absolute conniption over this or what. I know it's risky because our line is still not great, but I've been saying for weeks, this offense can't get any worse by putting Drake in there. It can't be.
I have a theory that I think this is Bob Kraft kind of pushing Gerard Mayo's hand here. Yep. I think he saw there were a few empty seats at the weekend, and as the weather gets colder in New England, are people really going to pay good money to go sit in the snow and the freezing temperatures and get their hand warmers out to go and watch Jacoby Brissett throw for 80 yards? I just don't think that's going to happen. People are going to turn up to watch Drake Maye. And ultimately, as much as we love the team, it's a business. And Bob Kraft wants to make money. And a really good way of doing that is to sell Drake Maye jerseys and to get people in the stands to come and watch him. And I think that, for me, I think might be the driving factor. And I don't care how it happens. It just means that when we go to Wembley, we get to watch Drake Maye, which I'm very excited about, as opposed to watching.
This is a massive win for the British fan base and even like the European fan base, that we've waited over 10 years to see the team come back to the UK. Obviously, it was a long time ago. Brady was still, in his prime and whatnot, and now we don't have to suffer through Jacoby Brissett, throwing for 80 yards, as JD just said. We might actually have some excitement at Wembley next weekend. So I think this is a massive win for us, in particular. I think, I agree. I think there might be some pressure come on the team for this one. I was just reading something from Andrew Callahan and a couple of other reporters saying that I wonder whether that the team have been pressured into this. But equally, I don't think that they can be too blind. They've seen how Jacoby Brissett has played the last couple of weeks, and it's just been way off it. Like, you can't have a QB throw for 3.7 yards per attempt and finish the game with like 80 passing yards. It's just so bad, and they're trying to find the spark. But my question is with this, because like there is an element of worry with it. As much as we want it to happen, we are throwing Drake out there against a team that just absolutely destroyed Josh Allen, and ate Caleb Williams alive a couple of weeks ago. It would have been better for him to have started this past week, to have gone out there against Miami at home in a bit of a gimme game, win the game, get some experience, get a rhythm going, and then head into the Houston game. I feel like this is a big, big debut for him. I mean, there's not a lot of expectation, but I kind of think they're throwing him to the wolves a little bit by going a week too late on this.
I wonder if maybe though. I sort of wondered whether the Miami game is a different sort of pressure, in that, like, if he comes in now, we might win this game. Whereas maybe I know obviously like Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson, this is a good defense in Houston, but nobody's anticipating we win this game. And I think if we were to wheel out Jacoby Brissett and watch him get pounded into the dirt and struggle offensively and get beat by 20, 30 points, who wants to see that? But if we go out and get beat by 20 points, but Drake Maye has a couple of plays where you're like, oh, that's pretty tasty. Now all of a sudden, that loss doesn't feel. And I think that was the thing for me in this regards to this, was this just felt like a throwaway season generally. That, like, I don't think we're going to do anything. We're not going to make the playoffs. Who cares? Let's just see what we've got. But we didn't have that because we've got Brissett in there. I know what Jacoby Brissett can do. I know he's a 5 out of 10. I know he's limited physically. I know that we know what he is. Whereas if we go out there and throw Drake Maye out, and if he goes out there and throws 2 or 3 interceptions, but there's a few splash plays and there's a few plays that make you go, oh, hello, son. Like that all of a sudden there's like, we're getting something out of this. Like, we might suck now, but I feel pretty confident because number 10's out there looking like he could do something in the future. And he is only 22. So, like, there's going to be growing pains, but I'd rather him go out there and learn. Jerod Mayo was talking about being a first-year head coach and him learning on the job. Why can't Drake Maye do the same?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the thing is, you can. Go on, Kieran. Sorry.
No, I just think it's a fair point. So good.
yeah. I think we spoke about before. We're watching Jacoby Brissett go out there and making absolute rookie mistakes. I'd much rather have Drake Maye out there learning on the job. None of us are expecting much of this season, let's be honest. This is the perfect time now for Drake. The game, maybe not, against a very, very good Texans team who I think are going to be one of the contenders in the AFC. But it's going to be, he's got to start somewhere. I'd much rather watch Drake Maye out there trying to make things happen than Jacoby Brissett throwing himself to the ground or going down every time someone comes within a whisker of him. So Mayday, boys.
I think
we've got to be prepared that there may be a couple of turnovers, early on. Jacoby Brissett has only thrown 1 interception, but the trouble is, they will say, well, Jacoby's done well at protecting the ball, but he's equally done not thrown it very far. Equally, like saying, okay, you don't want turnovers to kill you. If Drake Maye throws a couple of picks, it's fine, because essentially, although Jacoby Brissett is not turning the ball over via an interception or a fumble, he's turning the ball over via 3 and outs like 10 times a game. Like, yes, the opposition is taking the ball deeper in the field, but still, he's giving the ball back to the opposition with inept offense. So I think we have to understand that there may be, teething pains with Drake Maye. He may throw a couple of interceptions in this game. He might get sacked 5 times, but it's all to do with his learning. And he's going to get a much softer game in London next week. So
I think he is being thrown to the wall, sink or swim, every cliche in the book for this game against Houston. But listen, when I said something in the group chat again, it was basically, I don't expect this offense to take us to the bloody Super Bowl. I just want this offense to be watchable. I just want this offense to not look like a Division 3 high school football team, for crying out loud. That's all I'm asking. But now, listen, we got Drake, and look, I'm watching the rookies. I'm watching Caleb Williams. He balled out last week. I think he's finally arrived on the scene. I've been keeping a very, very close eye on Jaden Daniels. And I think we need to try and do something in the same sort of similar vein. Jaden Daniels, to start with, he wasn't like throwing deep balls. He was still throwing checkdowns, but he was also making very good, accurate passes and finding gaps 10, 15 yards downfield to move the chains. And I think that's what we're going to see a little bit through with Drake Maye. But you're also going to see him run with his legs. You're going to see his wheels, because there will come a time where the pocket's going to collapse. He's just going to have to get the hell out of there.
Well, I think the important thing is with Jaden Daniels is Cliff Kingsbury built an offense that is designed to accentuate what Jaden Daniels does well. It's designed to be one read, 2 at the most. If it's not there, go. Just run. That's what Jaden Daniels is. 24, 25 years old. He's played literally double the amount of college football games that Drake Maye's played.
True.
Like, he has a lot of starting experience. He reads the game really well, and they built their offense on that. I really hope we've done that for Drake Maye. I really hope that there is a semblance of an offense that is designed to do what Drake does well. Get him on the move. Let him run play action. He loves work in the middle of the field. Let him do that. Like, that to me is the more important thing. It's not what kind of offense we've built, but have we done what Cliff Kingsbury's done in Washington and built an offense that is designed to accentuate our young QB's talents? Because if not, he will likely fail and he'll look bad, because that's not fair. He's a 22-year-old QB who's got a lot to learn. If we just throw him in and go play football, it's not going to go well. I really hope we've done stuff that is going to, and that's what I was saying earlier about my concern with Alex Van Pelt. He's not done much with this offense so far to help build and accentuate the talents of the players we've got. So I really hope that changes when Drake Maye sees the field.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's a new dawn, it's a new era, and now we can officially start saying, we now have a new QB starting. We're excited. I'm actually now excited for this Sunday now to actually see how he gets on. And I think it has raised the hype a little bit now for next Sunday in Wembley as well, because I kind of think I will say this, I think I dropped a biblical stinker on Twitter literally about an hour and a half ago. Where are we? So I ended up posting, oh God, another really awful performance from my team, and I have to go watch this Joss next Sunday. Kill me now. Literally not long ago, it was like, I think I spoke too soon there.
I mean, we were saying it in the green room before we came on as well. Like, we've all spent a lot of money on tickets, and my tickets came through yesterday or the day before, and I looked at them, looked at the price, and thought to myself, "What the hell have I paid this amount of money to go see this crap?" But it may be, we don't know what it's going to be like. But the Jags are pretty dire as well, to be honest. So it should hopefully be a fun game. And I think Drake Maye is just going to go out there and cook. Let Drake cook.
And all it takes, as we said earlier on, is just some encouragement from this weekend first and foremost. We're not expecting Drake to go out there and win us the game, but if he plays well enough that we can be optimistic about things going forward, then that will 100% take that. Now, on the flip side, if he does go out there and we win the game and he looks phenomenal, we are all going to be very excited going into next week and beyond. But that's a big if. I just want to see a spark. I want to see us run the ball consistently well, like we do. Get him on the move. Get him running some boots. Get him in play action. And play to his strengths. Let him do it. And hopefully take a couple of shots down the field if they're there as well. He's got a massive arm. Just let him uncork something down the field at some point. Don't put the shackles on him. Let him go and play.
That's just what I was going to say. I really hope they don't shackle him. And as well, I think something that's underrated with Drake Maye's game is his athleticism. And I think already pretty 100% run game. We saw him take a read option in during the preseason. Like, if we can add that, that's only going to accentuate our run game. Hopefully, we start actually running play action a bit more than 1% of the time, because that'll help him as well. And I think, if we can start, I'm not even necessarily bothered about the result on Sunday. Like, if it just looks like there's a plan and Drake has a few splash plays, and like Kieran said, I hope they don't shackle him. I hope they just say, just go make plays, go nuts, go for it, lad. Like, don't try and do what Jacoby did and sit there and say, okay, let's not kill ourselves, because we're not going to win games like that, and we're not going to beat teams like Houston, because Houston will score. If we score 10, 13 points, we haven't got a shot. So why not go for it?
One thing as well, though, because one thing, we'll do this one last thing before we get on out of here, okay, guys? And that was this, okay? We haven't respected the opponents when we're trying to throw the ball. It's been 5-yard passes. We haven't tried to throw down the field. D'Amico Ryan is a very good coach, but he is a fantastic defensive coordinator. He has got not a single bit of tape on Drake Maye. You could put in maybe a bit of preseason, but not really nothing in regular season. So D'Amico Ryan is going to have to come up with a very good game plan to try and stop, unless they just blitz all the time.
I think we'll see a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of it. I think the only I think you could say is, I completely agree about Ryan. I think he's a great defensive-minded coach. Would you have perhaps played a bit of mind games here and maybe waited till Friday or Saturday to then announce that Drake Maye just started just in preparation?
Need the time for the ticket sales, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably.
Shall I jump on Ticketmaster now and see how much Patriots tickets are just for this game?
I mean, I've got to be honest. Like, seeing the amount of empty seats that I've seen at Gillette on Sunday was quite sad to see, to be honest, considering how difficult it's been to get tickets for Patriots games the past decade or so. Even with Brady leaving, I didn't think our fall from grace would be as such as it has been.
I think
this will provide a lift.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I mean,
fans
I think
are
I was
going to arrive in that
that
stadium on Sunday buzzing.
Yeah. And then we've got to go up against the third ranked defense via DVOA. So that's it's going to be a shot. I think you'll probably see a lot of what we've seen in previous weeks, but even exacerbate a little bit more. I think you'll see a lot of like sim pressure and disguised coverages and things like that.
Yeah.
They're just going to try and confuse the hell out of him.
Yeah. Let him get out of the pocket. Let him. Yeah. The pressure's going to come. Drake Maye is so good on the run. He played behind what could only be probably described as one of the worst defensive lines I've ever seen in college football at North Carolina this final year. They were shockingly bad. I'm talking near on like brick ball levels of bad. Like they were like, how these 5 were on a scholarship, the starters, I have no idea.
Yeah, so he's used to getting a muddy pocket, and he's used to that. So I think I think, like Kieran said earlier, the good thing is he's going to take shots. He's going to take chances. I think we might see Jalen Polk play better than he has, because he's going to be given opportunities to do what he does well, which is those 50-50 jump balls and things like that.
You'd like to think
I've got a bold prediction.
Go on.
Go.
Drake is going to throw his first career touchdown pass to someone having their first career touchdown reception. Demario Douglas is going to score in this game. Ooh. Because we said that Drake is excellent at throwing over the middle of the field. Pop is going to be open over the middle of the field. Now, Derek Stingley is going to be on the outside. You don't want to go anywhere near him. Let Jalen Polk just jam him constantly on the outside. Now, you can exploit the Texans over the middle.
Pop hasn't scored a touchdown yet.
He's never scored a touchdown.
That's mad.
So
that's like
at home. It's a new era. It's happening this weekend. I'm calling it right now. And he's going to. These last couple of weeks, he's been getting more and more receptions. He's had 6 and 7 the last 2 weeks. Get the ball over the middle. Drake's strength, Pop's strength. It's a way we can attack the Texans. I'm calling it. Drake's throwing a touchdown to Pop in this game, and the stadium is going to pop as a result. There's going to be some vibes inside Gillette this weekend.
That's like Jacoby Myers levels of without a touchdown. Like, just remember how long Jacoby went without a touchdown. Like,
And it was
every
Brian
game.
Hoyer who threw the ball for his first career touchdown.
I know.
Didn't he like cripple a Browns defender as well? There was a Browns defender like a neck injury on the play, because I always felt very bad for him because it kind of ruined the celebration of his first touchdown because there's a guy like getting carted off. And you're like, you can't really celebrate, can you?
So I have come across. I've gone on Ticketmaster.com to actually have a look at tickets themselves. So the cheapest ticket is $110, and that's up in the gods. The dearest.
That's definitely gone up from earlier in the season.
For dearest, which is literally ground floor behind the Patriots bench, $498.
That's good. That's not bad considering.
Considering we paid $200 for in Wembley.
To be fair, I am right behind the Patriots sideline, so I'm gonna just I will. If things are going wrong,
I'm on the corner of the red zone. I'm on the corner of the end zone.
Yeah, me too.
Just inside of the end zone. 119 anyway. Right, guys. Well, I think we can end this podcast on a bit of a high because Drake Maye is officially starting on Sunday, and we get to be a bit more excited and have a little bit more optimism about it all. We will see what happens on Sunday. Doesn't help the fact that we're 1-4 of the season, but it is what it is. We are a bad team, but let's hope for a little bit of optimism on Sunday. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on your way out. Hit the like button. Follow us on all our social media platforms. Follow us on our podcast on Spotify and on the Sports Social Network. We will be back next Tuesday for a review again of the Texans game. And hopefully, we can come across a victory. And if we do come across a victory, oh boy, we've got something to look forward to on Sunday. I think we've got something to look forward to next Sunday anyway, because Drake Maye is going to be our starter from this point forward. But for now, thanks to Kieran, thanks to Joe, thanks to JD. This has been the Patriots Touchback Podcast. It's Drake Maye time, baby. Go Patriots.